The way we define success is power and money. Like those are like, you look how successful they are.
Yeah.
Power and money, but a complete absence of love and trust and respect and
it's
basic human dignity.
Well, it's also not really how people operate. So there's an anthropological literature on the formation of elders in traditional societies, because you might ask yourself, who becomes an elder? And if you were a Marxist cynic, you'd say, well, those who used exploitation to dominate, like the priestly class or something like that. And that goes along with the supposition that, religion is the opiate of the masses. And some of that's obviously true, but a lot of it isn't. The elders aren't that at all. They're the people who others go to spontaneously to ask for counsel.
Yeah.
And then you ask, well, who do people naturally gravitate towards for counsel? And the answer is, well, productive, generous people who've managed their interpersonal relationships well. Because who the hell else would you go ask for advice if you had any sense? Like, you might go ask the local dictator and kowtow to him if you need a favor to take somebody out. But if you're actually asking for counsel, you're going to ask someone who's decent and who's generous and who plays a reciprocal game. And it's also the case, this is worth knowing too, the problem with a power game is that it's not playable, not in the final analysis. So Frans de Waal, the Dutch primatologist, has showed even pretty clearly in chimpanzees, you think the roughest, toughest chimpanzee rules the damn roost and he pounds everybody flat and he gets access to the females. And there's a little bit of truth to that, because female chimps aren't sexually choosy, but the male chimps will chase weaker males away from them. And so if you are more powerful physically as a male chimp, you do have preferential mating access. But the problem with being a brute, even if you're a chimp, is that you have an off day and two of the chimps that you oppressed band together and tear you into pieces. And so what de Waal found was that in chimp troops, the stable alpha can sometimes even be the smallest male of the troop. He'll ally himself with some of the dominant females and makes networks that are essentially friendships, reciprocal friendships. And that gives him a stable position, not of power, but of authority. And that's definitely the case in functional human societies. It's not based on power. Now, it's tricky because if it degenerates, then it degenerates into a relationship of power. And so that means the critics who make the claim that everything's about power are right in some sense when they're talking about nothing but corruption, but they're really 100% seriously wrong about the idea that it's power relation that constitutes the basis for the organization of any social interaction. It doesn't work in your marriage, doesn't work with your friends, doesn't work with your children, doesn't work with your business partners, doesn't work with your customers. It doesn't work with politicians, although here's another twist that's complicated. So imagine you have a population of people who basically cooperate reciprocally. So, I do you a favor, you do me one, and maybe we figure out how to advance each other across time. That's a good game, right? Fair trade plus advancement. That's a good definition for a good marriage. Okay, but now you have a community of people like that together. Okay, now it opens up an ecological niche, and the niche is psychopathy. And the psychopath comes in and pretends that he's a productive, generous reciprocator, but he's not. He's just an instrumental manipulator. But he can get away with it because there's enough wealth generated by the cooperators, the honest cooperators, so that there's a space for someone to exploit the system. And that stabilizes that 4% of the population. So, across the world, 4% of people are close enough to clinically diagnosable psychopaths. And that's probably better than being, paralyzed by fear and anxiety and just staying in your bed. It's better in terms of reproductive success, let's say, and maybe even success in general. But it's not a good game, because in the and reciprocal is that men who are productive and reciprocal, who have some capacity for aggression, can keep the real monsters at bay. So it's hard on women, because they have to navigate that really thin line between productive generosity and the capacity for aggression. That's a really tough thing to navigate.